Do you remember way back in time, I used to work with Vaughan. That's right, folks, he's back. He's sitting here right beside me. Vaughan, where have you been, for goodness sake?
Let you in on a secret, Max. I've been in prison, bro.
Prison? You've been... Really? You're not kidding me?
I'm not kidding you, yeah. But I'll let you in on another secret. I actually work in a prison. I'm not an inmate. So.
That's what they all say.
Yeah, that's what they all say. Pull the other one.
All right. Well, I couldn't imagine you going to prison because I believe that you're an upstanding citizen, so good work. So who are you working for? Corrections?
Yeah. So I work in New Zealand's only private prison run by Serco, and it's the largest men's sentencing prison, about 1,000 prisoners in there, Auckland South Corrections Facility.
How did you qualify for that role?
Look, I don't believe there is a qualification per se, but it seems like there was a good fit. Being Māori helped because the prison system is predominantly Māori. You know, over 55% of in prisoners are Māori.
Well, yeah, and that's we're hearing more and more in the media. Us people outside that system that Māori have different needs to the average runner person in the prison, and of course it's overrepresented, as we already know. So how do you work with that? I mean, Māori culture is different and have different needs. That must add some real challenges to you.
Yeah, the two parts to that question, Max. It's a good one because when I first started going in there, I'd have to agree that internally I felt anger seeing so many of my people imprisoned. But I think that the 1 year of going in and out of the prison, I'm starting to get my head around the magnitude of the problem, and societally, rather than be focused on what is wrong, what do we do about this? And whilst it's a big challenge, you've got to look at what meaningful difference you can make as an individual, and that's where I feel very, very privileged to be able to go in there and look through the eyes that I do, and actually do feel very proud that a difference is being made.
So, Vaughan, as the public are very concerned about, is those Māori inmates that are in there, is them coming back out into society. So they've got their integration, and of course they get into a culture within the prison system. So how do you handle that so they come out as a good citizen and being able to pick up work, etc.?
Yeah, so that's the other thing, that whilst I run a Māori focus unit in the prison, and there is a lot of work that you do that specifically focuses on our culture, over and above culture is, are you a better man? Are you a man fit for society? And clearly when you've ended up in prison, it hasn't been by accident in most cases. You've done something wrong. Have you learnt from your time in prison? So the first and foremost focus is that from the time you enter a wing that I'm responsible for and the time that you leave, you're in better shape, which means you have got a better chance of not coming back to prison, because that's the key.
But certainly, wouldn't the Māori culture has some benefits to it? So, I mean, you must have seen in there where the Māori culture has actually helped some of these, prisoners embed themselves with the Māori culture and actually become better people as well.
Well, I think that, and look, just on that note, of the 60 men that are in the wing, not all are Māori, probably 70%, because there are some people that have been brought up with Māori that have got a good fit. But coming to the cultural part of it and some of the aspects of cultural, whether it be the unity, the togetherness, the connection and the identity, all of these things are important, but in fact, they're important for any man. But there is a noticeable benefit to putting Māori together in their own wing and having them work together. They seem to create, well, it is a culture within the wing that works really well, a positive culture. And that's something that I think is, from a Māori focus perspective, is I support that as an idea. But it's not all about learning waiata and karakia and whaikorero. You've got to get out there and get a job.
Oh, no, well, culture means a lot of things, and particularly with prisoners. I mean, they're anti-society, and that's why they go into prison generally, because they're pushed against it.
Yeah.
So you must have some influence on that. But have you been able to be influential on the culture itself and actually swing it into more of a positive light for them, for the reintegration of society?
I think the only difference that you can make in that regard is that whilst you do see yourself as a Māori and one of the few staff that will walk through the prison door that has a whakapapa, and the prisoners recognise that, what sort of role model are they looking at when you speak to them and you are with them and you're giving them some form of aspiration and hope not to stay in prison? And they want to get out there and be that, whether it's the son, father, brother, or whatever. They want to play that role model guy. That can be a proud Māori or Pākehā in there. So the cultural aspect, as far as their own personal identity, is a part of what they're doing, as well as being a prisoner reintegrating. Because reintegration is not actually about the culture. Reintegration is about the world is missing me. I'm a lost Māori. I'm in prison, lost to my family, lost to my whakapapa, but I need to get out there and get back on the tools and contribute.
So but what we've seen, Vaughan, is we've just lost the Maori king died, and of course that he's a leader for the Maori people and very influential. So I assume the culture within inside would have leaders that evolve and come to the top. And your obligation would be there to try and influence those people to come out as more positive human beings to society.
Yeah.
Are you effective in that role?
Yeah, so what you do see is, whether you want to call it leadership or a rank and file in terms of the senior prisoners versus the junior, and so you've got that structure where some are influencing others in a positive way. The key thing from the prisoner's perspective is the respectful behaviour you're trying to encourage in them that makes them an asset back to their family, back to their, when they return to their whānau. And that's a behavioural thing. And so the older prisoners seem to be very, very good at that, because they've kind of accepted their lot, that, they've probably wasted a large portion of their life, and they're trying to pass on their mistakes as lessons to those that are following them.
So is there due respect for elderly people in the Maori culture? I mean, that's what we're seeing, and does that happen in the prison's culture as well?
Oh yeah, when you're in a Māori focus unit, you would get the same feeling that you would have if you were on a marae. So the same tikanga best practice in terms of how the way people treat each other, and they are towards each other, respectful for your environment, and how you engage with others, and just doing things right, and that makes it actually very rewarding to see. It's just a pity that these men are locked up and not playing a positive role.
So I guess my question really is, somebody senior, been in prison a while, or perhaps evolved into the leader, and it could be someone who's been in there a short time. So is that a factor, that they will respect him, listen to him, and give him due respect?
Very much so.
Or her, of course.
Yeah, very much so. And I think in terms of a part of the evolution of what I've seen since I've been in prison is that, and I don't want to sound down on the role of Māori culture in prison, because the prison system is predominantly Māori. So the culture is there, whatever way you want to look at it. So what do we do about that? The other side to the gang community in prison, it's massive, right? So whilst 55% of all prisoners might be Māori, 77% of all gang members are Māori. So therefore most Māori that are in prison, if they're not in a gang, they're affiliated to a gang, or they have some relationship with a gang. And that's been the big influence that I've seen in an area that I've chosen to focus on since I've been there. So coming back to your question about leadership, as you know, gang structures, presidents, sergeant of arms, all that sort of stuff, no different in a prison. Those men, it's obvious who's who in the gang communities in prison in that regard. And I think that when you are dealing with men that wake up one day and decide to no longer want to be in a gang, that to me is where the opportunity is. Men that are prepared to leave a gang, and that takes a hell of a lot of courage.
Well, I'd say it would do, particularly in a prison environment, because there's violence and all sorts of things, potential violence there.
Yep.
You're under threat, and I believe leaving a gang is not easy.
Yeah, your life is at risk. If you want to walk away from a gang in prison, you need to think very, very carefully. And I would say the number of men who are gang members in prison who have thought about leaving a gang is way more than we'll ever know. So mentally, they're struggling with, how do I get out? But if they reveal that, they are exposed, very exposed.
So a friend of mine years ago, he actually took me into a gang environment. This is in Australia. So I went to one of the Australian gang patches, and I enjoyed myself immensely. I stayed there the whole night, and really enjoyed myself, and loved the respect and the culture and all that stuff.
Yep.
Now, he left that gang and became very religious, which is like joining another gang. And he got the call, you're still wearing that tattoo with our brand on it. Get it off.
Yep.
If you don't get it off, we're coming to visit you. Now, his response, I thought, oh, God-fearing man, now he'll probably obey immediately. He said, you come along, you reckon you're a big enough man, you try and take it off me. Whoa, I thought, man, but perhaps that's the way you got to communicate.
Well, and in terms of talking about gangs, because now we've moved from Māori culture in prison to the gang community.
I'll go back to it.
No, well, actually, I think it's a very valid point because there's two things that have happened to me, and it's well, gangs is something that's spoken a lot anyway, whether we look at it politically or societally. It's a big topic right now, and it's something that we have to find a solution to. But there's a saying in the gang community, and that is blood in, blood out, right? So to get your patch, it doesn't come easily. You have to earn that. And if you want to walk away from the gang, probably harder than it was to get in. And laying down your patch is not an easy thing. So therefore, men who are prepared to take that courageous step and walk away from their gang, I want to talk to those men. And so what actually happened to me when I was in there, a former president of a gang came up with the idea of a program for men that wanted to leave the gangs. It is called Hoki Mai, which means return. And him and I got talking about it. We presented the idea to the prison management and decided to run a pilot program, which was that if you've got the courage to walk away from your gang, we want you to join this program. And it's a 14-week pilot that we're running, and we'll take you through a process that will build the confidence and equip you with the tools necessary to have the courage to keep going in that direction away from your gang.
Wow, Vaughan, and I'm way off line for these questions, but certainly that would lead to your reputation within the prison system, because then that means that you're anti-gang, and I would say the gang leaders be saying, don't go to Vaughan's little show because he's anti our patch, and you know what we think about that and how we treat people who go off to a different group.
I think that there's no question that the concept wouldn't be popular with people who are wedded to the gang, gang members who are wedded to their gang. As far as Vaughan Winiata being anti-gang, no, I'm not anti-gang. I'm pro a better life. And I think that you referred to kingitanga. And I was speaking to a friend coming over here in the car today, and he said, you know, what is it about Māori that we do death so well? You know, the tangi for Kingi Tuheitia was a wonderful event. We need to do life that well. And that to me was very succinct, and I thank Boris for it. But coming back to, this is the thing about, no disrespect to men who are in a gang in the sense that, man, if you want to see loyalty, look at gang members. They are loyal to that patch. How do we transfer that as a virtue into your family and into you and a better life for you? Because more often than not, a gang life is a life of crime. And that's not the solution, you know. And I think a solution is a good life. As a proud father, proud son, brother, or whatever you want to be, a good man. Māori or not.
I mean, and I've got other questions I should get onto, but I certainly do, is that a lot of people feel like they need to belong to something, and that's why a lot of churches, you know, that actually gain a lot of ex-gang members as well, because they're comfortable in an environment where there is a leader, someone giving them direction. Not everyone's a leader, of course.
Look, Max, this is really good stuff, because there are other programs such as Man Up, the Destiny Run, that has a good rap. What the key thing of Hoki Mai, which was created by a prisoner while he was sitting in prison, going, man, you know, this gang life has kind of left me nowhere. And at my age, I want to encourage other men to walk away from the gang. Christianity, or should I say a religious spine to the program, is not what we wanted. What we wanted was a succinct focus on you, the individual, and who you are before you want to go and delve into any faith or any cultural experience. You know, an upstanding man, no matter of your background, is what we're interested in. And
I mean, this comes to mind, the Salvation Army, but it certainly is you going from one gang into another. But certainly they've got different brandings, of course, and different ends of the criminal spectrum.
Yeah,
Vaughan, what's the biggest challenge of your role?
No different to an alcoholic or an addict, where you're on the wagon, you're off the wagon, you're in rehab, you're out of rehab. A gang member that wants to walk away from the gang, and maybe one night in his cell he's looking at it and going, that's it, I'm out, and how do I go about that? They're going to fall in and out of consciousness of, today I'm a gang member, today I'm reforming. right?
Yeah.
And so the biggest challenge is keeping them on an even and stable keel for that 14-week program, so you get to that habit-forming process of, I don't need to go back. I might be thinking about it or whatever, because often a gang member in prison is not just a gang member in prison. He's got his people on the outside who are relying on him to return back to whatever he was doing. Mm-hmm. He's probably got his partner, children. So we're unscrambling a lot of eggs here, in terms of that. So the biggest challenge is actually the breakaway. And in a moment of weakness, it's easy to go back.
I believe alcohol addiction and drug addiction is the same. Your comfort level is to be back onto that problem, and I can see it the same with gangs. The gang gives me protection. I've got my brotherhood there and people that love me and care for me. I'm going to go back because it's Vaughan. He goes home every night to his nice warm bed. Yeah.
And look, so one of the things that I'd have to say, what I love about this program, and it's only a small program. It's 14 men that we're taking through a 14-week pilot, and the key thing about it is that it's one of the very few things that the taxpayer would be investing in, and the taxpayer investment is it's about $160,000 to keep a prisoner in prison every year. So it's costing you and I.
Yeah.
So therefore, why wouldn't we try and give a return on investment by saying we can tell you how many members who were in gangs walked away from gangs in the last 12 months because of this program, and that's a number that in December we'll be reporting on, that this many gang members have walked away from the gangs.
So, the prison system's been criticised immensely, and of all sorts of things and problems, and constantly getting criticism. But certainly, can you tell us from your perspective how the prison system currently caters for the specific needs of Māori?
Yeah, and look, I'm speaking specifically from the prison I work at. So the Serco-operated prison, Auckland South Corrections Facility, what effort they go to cater for Māori, I'm really impressed with. That they try really hard. The reality is they are not Māori. That's not a Māori prison. It's a Crown entity. It's corrections. It's a corrections contract. So I have nothing but respect for what they are trying to do. But if we're all brutally honest, we're not winning. Right? That the problem appears to be getting worse. I'm fortunate enough to be able to go there and spend time and look at it and use what wisdom I've maybe amassed in life, but I'm not the solution either. It's just that I'm getting insights now to get my head around what are the things that we can do can make a difference, and they're going to be small things, not big things, and such as this gang program.
Well, of course, I think you said, was it 70% of the inmates are Māori? Is that right?
No, 55%, 77% are gang.
Oh, okay, 55%. So overrepresentation is the word we hear all the time in the media here. What are you doing about that? Can you have an influence over that? To try and reduce that number?
Yeah, so I'll give that in a nutshell, and the short answer, so I put people out of their misery, is no. The prison system is like the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff, right? Because the process you go through is, Māori or not, you get arrested, you end up in the justice system, you get sentenced, and then you get off, sent to a warehouse, which is called a prison, and you're kept away from. So by the time we receive the individual, they've gone through some processes, and the reason we got them was happening way back here. It was happening way back in their life before they got arrested, before they got sentenced. And that's not trying to move the responsibility away from us, but what meaningful difference can we make while we've got them? Because one of the beautiful things about a prisoner is that you've got their focus for the time that they're there, because they're locked up. They're not going anywhere. So as opposed to trying to chase gang members around society in police cars, you don't know where the heck they are from a day-to-day basis. In a prison, I know that the 60 men in the cultural focus unit that I go to, that has a gang rehabilitation program in it, is there now, it's there tomorrow, it's there the next day. So I've got a captured audience, for want of a better word.
So do you think you could be influential on the fact of their children, their family, and also the Māori culture, which we believe is very close to family, and this is a Pākehā perspective, so forgive me, but certainly I would think that while they were in prison, then listening to you, they could perhaps come out and actually have some effect on their young people coming through.
100%, and I think this is once again that, if you look at why people were drawn to a gang in the beginning, it is a kind of a family. So family values are in there in terms of what people desire. And if we sit, which we've done many times in workshops, we sit our men in front of a whiteboard and we'll throw up what is most important to you, family is always there. So they might say their whakapapa, meaning that they want to honour their ancestors, or they might say their whakapapa, that they want to honour those that are going to follow them. But they understand that they're part of a line, and maybe their link in the line, they've dropped the ball. They've actually diminished the mana of their whakapapa. How do I restore that? And when you start to see that they are thinking about that and you're getting somewhere, you know, from my perspective, you go, actually, this is a guy that needs to be back on the outside at some point, because he's now got some making up to do. You know, in terms of, and look, you know,
and he could be influential.
Very influential. I mean, people want to know their story. It's like, for me, one of the reasons why I've gravitated to the gang community in the prisons is that I want to know their story. I want to know, how the heck did you get here? And all of them have their pathway, and you know, some are similar to others. But the bottom line is that, you know, I think I'm pretty street smart, but I'm like nothing compared to what I've seen since I've been in prison. It's like, my God, you know, how lucky am I to be able to look at this, and I haven't been affected like that. But there is a commitment to want to serve and do something about it. So that family values, men that are valuable coming back out into society, is something that is the number that we want to report on. So it's going to be, you know, the number we're aiming for is 14 men have gone through the program in December. We'll be ready to reintegrate as valued members contributing positively to society. How big can that number be? But, well, you know, we just don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but we do want that number to go up.
Excellent. So, I mean, I can see you preparing, as Vaughan would do, those individuals for saying, well, this is how you should be talking to your children, and your brothers and sisters and people like that as well, and putting a negative aspect on what you've been through.
Yeah, and from a positive perspective, what we want is a corrections minister, you know, Honourable Mark Mitchell, to be able to say that there's a program in the gang system, in the prison system, that's working with gang members that want to reform, and this is the number that are walking away. Because right now, the 14 that we've got going through the program, I've got a huge wait list of others that want to be on it, but we can't handle that in the pilot. So there will be a number that we'll be able to report on, that the society can look at it and go, actually, we're winning.
Hey, can you tell us some of those success stories, or perhaps some individuals who have gone out that you feel that are actually going to change and actually have an influence on the rest of society?
Well, I think the success story you see in the first instance is when a prisoner honestly lays down their patch. And you know, the interesting thing is that the gang world is a very negative thing that we think about, but I know many gang members that have never been arrested or even in the back of a police car. So that's probably a small percentage, but some of the success stories I've seen is that the loyalty that's ingrained into a gang member is the natural behaviour and the body language, whether it's the salute or the language or whatever. And when you see that start to disappear and they start to talk to each other respectfully, like you and I are talking to each other now, you're seeing the real man be released. And it's almost that authenticity of, wow, hiding behind the gang patch or the regalia or whatever, being the facial tattoos or whatever that goes with being a big scary gang member, to a real man is coming out of that was buried in there.
Vaughan, you've actually, I mean, I really would love to hear a story, but I remember you telling me about a gang leader who actually put this whole, you mentioned it before, put the whole system together with you. I mean, we don't want names, but certainly tell us that story.
Okay, so in terms of privacy, I can't say names,
No.
but what I can tell you in terms of a story, we've got a prisoner in prison who is a former president of a major gang, and he sat down one night and thought, this is not it, right? We need to walk away. So he came up with the word hokimai, which means to return, and a 14-week program, which he put to me. And I know when he put it to me, he was probably thinking, oh yeah, I'll put it on to my boss or whatever. When I took it to the management of the prison, they went, really? Did the prisoner come up with this? That you didn't write this, did you? And I said, no, this was the prisoner. The prisoner did this. And they very quickly said, well, what's there to lose? Give it a go. And as soon as word got out that there was this gang reform program, I had prisoners coming up to me saying, how can I get on it? How can I get on it? So now what I've got is 14 men running a program, but 60 names, we can't accommodate them, right? So
That's fantastic.
So clearly, in terms of one man, and I think the crux of this story is it was born in a prison, an idea of a prisoner, and it's actually been created. All I've done is help facilitate. So I'm just there in what you might call an enabler.
I wouldn't downplay that, because you actually are the enabler, and that's a significant progression.
Yeah, so I have a role to play, but I couldn't do it without the content, and the content is the true, authentic gang member, and all of these guys are hardened gang members.
And that fits in well where we started with gang leaders.
Yes,
and having due respect.
Yep.
And this person,
Yep.
as you say, you've used him as a tool.
Yep.
And he's used you as a tool.
Yep.
But to try and be influential and a positive outcome for
the
Maori
mutual
people.
benefit is that they join society again someday in a positive sense, whether it's Māori or whether it's as a proud Kiwi. That is what they want to walk out and not see. Too many men are walking out of prison now and ending up back in the gang life they were in, and that's the circuit that we are trying to break.
Now, as an outsider, I've never been to a prison. I'd love to, actually.
Come on down. We've got a cell for you.
Will I ever be returned? But anyway, let's go into it. But for a person to be released into the community, people are going to be standing, he's been to prison. And they expect him to get violent or be scared of him or whatever. So how do you prepare the outside, the family? Do you have any involvement at all? Or does the prison system have any involvement at all with the whānau and those sort of people to say, he's coming out? Now, you must treat him normally. He's going to be seeking jobs, giving positive outcome, positive thinking and, all those sort of things. Does that actually happen or not?
I think that the intent is for it to happen. The effectiveness of it happening, there's some good, there's some bad, and there's some ugly. In terms of this program, Hoki Mai, to return, the key question we're asking is return to where, right? So you're already thinking that what is the vision for the day that you walk out of the prison? Who is there to pick you up? Where are you going? And what are you actually going to do when you get out? So you're articulating that way back here. And I think that, like for anything to happen, when you can visualize that clearly, and that's where we then look to stakeholders that are in society. And one, I have to give a massive shout out to is David Latelli Sr. at Grace Foundation, who is doing phenomenal work with former gang members in society. And so someone might leave our prison and go to Grace and see David and spend some time there as they're finishing themselves off, because it all is about preparing to stand on your own 2 feet.
Yeah.
But you need those support mechanisms in the way, because you're going to have those days where you're off your game. It's just the way it goes.
Now, Vaughan, talking about that, because support systems and those sort of things, but in Serco, we know it's a private prison, and they're probably affected by profit and loss. But how are you finding your relationships? Because I know you well enough, Vaughan, that you'll stand on your own and you don't take prisoners too easy.
No.
But that's by excuse the pun. But you know what I mean. You don't suffer fools too much. But also you have an ability to get people to warm to you. But how do you get on with your colleagues who may have in terms of their understanding of the Maori culture and your understanding? Is there issues there for you?
Yeah, look, in terms of issues, there's definitely...
your colleagues, to do with in Serco.
Yeah. So in terms of the community, the employees that I work with at Serco, getting the gang concept over the line, I would have to say, wasn't easy to begin with, because it had proven in the past to be far too hard. But what's happened is that the support has swung around very, very quickly, because the benefits are already proving to be obvious. So like any large organisation, culturally, there is like a bureaucracy. There's hidden resistance, right? But that is a part of understanding that that's part of the job that has to be done, is bringing them along with you on the journey. And so the thing is that we're definitely winning, but it didn't come without its challenges of winning the confidence of the colleagues to go, this is a good idea. A lot of people that have been in the prison system for a while will look at gang members and go, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
That you will get that.
I think societies would say that to you as well, but we don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, because we haven't experienced the gang cultures and things.
Yeah.
You've been close to them in the last year.
And I think that the critical thing to also understand about Hoki Mai, it's not a panacea to the gang problem. It is a very, what you would call almost a boutique program. Remember, there's only 14 men in here when we're talking about 4,000 prisoners are gang affiliated.
Yeah, it is small.
And there's 10,000 odd men in prison, or 10,000 prisoners, men and women, of which about 4,000 are gang members or affiliates. So the 14 that we're working with is hardly a solution, but what you're looking for is to create a formula that you go, this works, keep it. And then you work on to the next.
Actually, I should have asked you this at the beginning of it, but do you work predominantly with men prisoners or women prisoners or both?
Yeah, so only men. So I'm in a men's prison.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and so in New Zealand, there are 18 prisons, 15 men's and 3 women's. So the women's prison is next door, but there's gang community there as well. But to answer the question, men.
All right, now, what would you say to other Maori people out there watching this who may be interested to make a contribution in here somehow? And what advice would you give them? I mean, is this rewarding work?
I think that it's only rewarding if you are at a point in your life where you're committed to serve. And so no one is going to do this because it's financially rewarding. You know, that you're not in this for the money. You're in it because something inside of you says that this is the right thing to do. It makes me feel good to do it. So therefore, it will only appeal to those people that go, I like that story, I want to be a part of it. Look, my phone goes every other day for people wanting to know how they can help. And then it's going, how to help. How? You know, what would that role be? I've been approached in terms of funding the program. There's all sorts of things going on, but we're not at that stage yet. What we're at the stage of, we're going to prove that this is a workable solution. Then from there, I think that, what is the saying? You know, build it and they will come. That's really where we're at the moment. So December, the first week of December is when we complete this program, and those 14 men will all be graduating as former gang members, having walked away from their gang.
All right, we're running out of time, Vaughan, but the final question is this, where do you see yourself in a few years' time?
I don't think I've thought that far ahead, but if I was to sort of give a couple of examples, the success of the Hoki Mai program in the prison system is absolutely something I want to look back and say I was there when that was born, and it's great to see it evolve. I'm not too convinced I'll be working in the prison system, but I want to do it while I'm physically able. So I'm able to fit it with much younger, and you know, prisoners, it's a dangerous field to be in. You have to have your wits about you, and even though there's a lot of training that goes involved in keeping you safe, there's also a bit of a vibe that comes from the cut and thrust of that. So I've got to say I do enjoy it, but there will be one day where I'll wake up and I'll go, geez, I'm getting a bit long in the tooth of this. So where do I see myself in a few years from now? Probably at that point.
Yeah, well, look, if there's anybody who would recognise that and put a stop to it, would be you. Vaughan, I've got to say, I've had a year without you. And I missed you, but certainly I think well done to you, because you're making a positive contribution to our society, and I think that's very, very valuable. So thank you very much, Vaughan. Let's do some more of this.
Thanks for your time, Max.
I'd like to talk to some more about this.
Yeah, and I look forward to having you down the prison someday soon.
Yeah, I'll come down.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, bro.